We are going to get into some study now. All right. So, have my brain food. Study. Saved a couple of these in advance. Here's some I prepared earlier. Get some water first. Um, my favorite studies. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't make any sense, right? Um, all right. So, shout out to um, shout out to uh KLT8 who made this study. Can you guys see that? Hey, let's just go back to study. My favorite studies. Yep. So shout out to KLT8 for creating this Queen's Gambit study. It's a really good one. Um, let's turn the music down a touch. All right. So Queen's Gambit. Yes, this is a line that I only started playing last week. Uh, Usually only played the London or maybe some E4 things. Maybe some Vienna kind of openings. But mostly London. So it's not too similar to London, but not too dissimilar. But for me, I need to kind of break my habits of always playing the London because I'm just doing things in the Queen's Gambit that doesn't make sense because I'm thinking about the London. Yeah, E4 stuff is the next, is probably the next thing for me, but Queen's Gambit is the way to go for now. Okay, so let's go. Um, so Queen's Gambit, you start with D2 pawn to D4. Now, in order for this to be the Queen's Gambit, the black pieces has to play D5, right? And then we reply with C4, and then this is the position that it looks like. This is a Queen's Gambit. Black has three main options. The Queen's Gambit declined, which is E6 here. The Queen's Gambit accepted, which is D takes C4 here. Um, or the Slav and Semi-Slav defense, which is playing C6 here, right? Um, so that's the position. Now there's a trap here for white that the black can fall into. So we play the Queen's Gambit, D4, D5, C4. Black has accepted the Gambit. Holding onto the extra pawn is very dangerous for black. So when black accepts the Gambit, we play knight to F3 here to prevent E5 happening and weakening our center. Okay, so Queen's Gambit accepted, knight to F3, preventing pawn to E5. Black plays knight to F6. It's the best move. Now we push our E pawn so our bishop can take back on C4. So our E pawn will push so our bishop can take this pawn here. All right, this is the trap. This is when the trap starts. So the Gambit's been accepted. We've developed a little bit. And now black is trying to hold on to this pawn. Black's like, I don't want to lose this piece. All right, so this is the threatening attack. How can we attack B5 with another pawn? With our A file, our A pawn to A5, right? Attacking here. So this is the position where the trap has now been set or started. Now, black will naturally play a move to reinforce the B5 pawn, in which white will exchange on B5. So be like, okay, we're happy to take here. Cool. And play a pawn break that attacks C4 now. Okay, so this is the position. And we can now go and attack on B3. So this is just threatening quite a bit. We'll have a look at the analysis board here. I know there's another move where the queen can come out to F3 and be attacking here. So if we have a look at this, let's say, for example, they take here, right? We can give this check. And this is just really kind of gross, and black's in a very tough position. They might do something like this, check, check, and even if they do something like this, for example, fine, we castle, and we have all these things open, and black is, is quite behind on tempo. There is another line here in this trap, where I think you don't play f3, and just play e2 straight away, and then black defends, and then here, takes, and then f3. And what this does is threatens the rook. The only way to defend the rook is either queen to d5, which obviously not going to do, or bishop to c8, or knight to c6, right? So you might be like, okay, I'm fine to lose a knight here. You hit this check, and then if you go with the bishop, if black goes with the bishop, which would be the best move, now you can't take the rook because the queen will take, and you just have to retreat. With the queen, probably I would say something back to here. And now you just up a piece, right here. So yeah, that's the trap, which is pretty nasty. But so far my games haven't come across it too much, yet. All right, moving on. So that's the Queen's Gambit trap. Queen's Gambit accepted. Same thing. Queen's pawn to d4. Black plays d5. Now we play the c pawn to c4. Queen's Gambit accepted. All right. What do we play here against accepted? I actually don't know, so I'm going to save you the solution. It's either f3 or... Okay, it is f3. Oh yeah, obviously f3 to prevent e5. We just went over this. How to move a pawn so a bishop attacks c4. Yeah, e pawn, king's pawn to e3, opening this up. All right, so this is black's best move. In the Queen's Gambit accepted, because it opens up this bishop, so then they can castle soon. And now we just win the pawn back. And now we get to castle early. They can take that. We get to castle early. Black wants to go b5 and b7. We can stop this queenside expansion with a4. Move 7 a4. Right, so obviously attacking the bishop here, and then they can develop, black can develop their bishop to b7, which stares right down the board. And our king. And we can stop this straight away with a4. We willingly weaken the b4 square here. And black, after c takes d4, and then e takes d4, gives us an isolated pawn and a weak d5 square. So what do we have in return? We'll soon find out. Okay, cool. Begin by bringing the queen to e2. So black plays knight to c6. We push our queen to e2. All right, just looking at this guy, I suppose. We don't have to take back right away. Bring the rook to the d file. Ah, lovely. Okay, pinning this pawn to the queen. Right, we've pinned the pawn to the queen. Yep, I see. I guess that. I knew that. We've pinned the pawn to the queen. Now we recapture it. Now, you're obviously not going to take with the rook. You could take with the knight. You could take with the pawn. I don't know what the best move is. It's the pawn. Okay, so you take with the pawn. And now black gets a chance to castle. And now we play move 11 in this Queen's Gambit accepted variation. Well, all the best moves, apparently. Knight to c3. So we just develop our second knight now. And as a result of this opening sequence, in return for weakening b4 and d5 and an isolated pawn on the d file here, we have, what have we achieved? We have one, prevented black's queenside expansion. Okay, so yep, that's pretty true. Black's pretty boxed in here. This bishop hasn't come out, the queen hasn't come out, the rook hasn't come out, the knight is limited just to one move. More central space. So white here is controlling a lot more squares in black side of the board, as opposed to black here having eyes, not as much control into white side of the board. So that's more central space. 3, a good square for a knight on e5. Yes, so beautiful move there to control the center. And if the black knight takes here, and we take with the pawn, we've got a double attack. We've got a discovered attack on the queen, and then this pawn will be attacking the knight on f6. So that's pretty consequential for black. All these factors add up to a kingside attack for white. All these factors add up to a kingside attack for white. So after we've played the main line gambit accepted, the goal here is to attack on the king's side, right? Which is looking pretty vulnerable and weak. We have everything launching ready to go here. Cool. All right. Nice. There is a lot of theory in the Queen's Gambit accepted, yes, and there are a lot of different theoretical lines, yes. Yeah, yeah. I'm trying to learn a couple of the main lines. Um, 6 moves in is pretty good. 10 moves in, even better. And I feel like the more you play it, the more you come across the lines, the more you review, reflect, and be like, okay, that's the best move there. And if you just pick up one move at a time for each line, like you're gonna get pretty strong in that position, right? Oops. Excuse me. All right. So next section is Queen's Gambit declined. So black won't always accept the gambit. Like now, Queen's Gambit declined. Black maintains a central stronghold at the cost of blocking their light squared bishop, right? We should develop our B1 knight to C3. Yes, you don't want to go to A3 because then they just take, and then you have doubled pawns, and then they've got an early castle. This is black's main line. We'll look at the alternatives. 3, C5. Okay, so black playing to the bishop to F6 is the main line in this gambit declined. Instead, here they could play C5. Bishop to E7. Bishop to E7. Oh, just here. Okay, yeah. Okay. After 3, knight to F6, it is recommended the exchange variation with room number 4 for white. C takes D5. Okay, so in this main line here, it's recommended that we take the D5 pawn. Okay, that's one to remember because I always forget that. Now we develop our dark squared bishop and pin the black's knight. Right. How do we clear the way for our light squared bishop to enter the game? Here, moving the pawn. I'm guessing we just go to e3. Yeah. Cool. This is the famous Carlsbad pawn structure. Bring out the light squared bishop. So, Carlsbad pawn structure, like this. Okay, where the pawn on black e file is missing, and the pawn on white c file is missing. Bring out a light squared bishop. Cool. Black plays knight to d7, the b8 knight to d7. Here we play queen to c2. Looking like a nice little attack there. Pressuring h7 a little bit. Yeah. Now comes a key moment. Where do we develop our g1 knight to? Both e2 and f3 are popular. Oops. But e2 is better. Okay. Seems kind of counterintuitive, doesn't it? But I think it gives us more flexibility to go forward. Although e5, it can just be traded, right? Now we castle. But which way? Queenside is okay. Queenside. Queenside is okay. But black is perfectly fine. So kingside is better. Okay. What does that mean? Queenside is okay, but black is perfectly fine. As in, like, if we want to be really offensive and try to create more play, perhaps. Sorry, my ear's tickling. So kingside is better. All right, so we castle kingside here. Considered generally the best move. In this position, white has 3 possible plans. They've just retreated the d7 knight to f8. f3 and e4. Oh, white has... Okay, in this position, white has 3 possible plans. f3, e4, rook b1 to prevent this, and a minority attack with b4, b5. So rook b1, b4, b5. Okay, oh, and also there, right. So now we can push the pawn, right? I recommend plans 1 and 3. Let's prepare them with 11, f3. Okay, so we go with f3. Black develops their bishop to e6, their light squared bishop. We want to play e4, so we should support our d pawn with a rook. Okay, that makes sense, because we're going to go here. This is only that's watching it. So I'm guessing we play our a rook. Yeah. Black develops their rook. We first go king h1, then knight to g3. And I'm guessing that's so there's no nasty little checks in between. So, oh, what happened there? Oh, okay. I think that was the end of the line. Oh, okay. Let's do it again. Let's do the whole thing. From the top, d4, d5, c pawn to c4. We play knight because Gambit declined, so we play the knight. Okay, so here black has decided to play the bishop, which means we can't pin. So this avoids our normal exchange variation lines because after c takes d5, e takes d5, there's no knight on f6 to pin, but we can exchange on d5. We can still exchange on d5. Okay, we still can exchange d5. A bishop can't go to g5. No, it cannot. So it stops 1 square short, so we play to f4. Okay. Just like the London system. Okay, yeah, our bishop goes to f4. So there is a lot of crossover here. Right. We now clear the way for our light squared bishop. Yep. Good move. Thanks, boss. We can chase the bishop with an attacking pawn push. So we have g4. It's protected. If we play e4, takes. That's not really good, is it? So g4? Bishop to g6. Isn't good because the bishop gets chased around. Right. So we can go to f4, f5. Right, okay. Oh, h4. But h4, bishop can take. What? Why wouldn't the bishop just take? Let's have a look. Now we can push our h-pawn. The h-pawn marches on. Wouldn't black just take here? Wouldn't black just take here? I guess not. Okay. Bring our light squared bishop so it can defend g4. We can either play e2 or h3. I feel like e2 is a better move. Yep. Knight to h3 is best here. Okay. Yeah, okay. So bishop to e2 is right. Wow, this looks crazily weird. What a weird line this is. And now we have a dangerous attack. We can take there, double their pawns. We can develop here. We can get the queen, bishop out. Right. Okay. Time for one more Queen's Gambit declined line. d4, d5, c4, e6. Queen's Gambit declined. We play knight to c3. This is... Okay, and black plays c pawn to c5. This is the Tarrasch defense. Even against this move, we take on d5. Okay, cool. So just take on d5. That's the way to go. Develop our other knight. Good move, thank you. We want to fianchetto our bishop to g2. What pawn helps us do that? So our bishop to g2, we have to move our g pawn to create this little fianchetto here. Little thingy-mabob, right? This position. Black develops their knight and bishop, and we just castle. And then black castles. Now we have one minor piece left to develop, this bishop. Where does it go? We can either go to f4, we can probably pin here because it is reinforced. But do we want to risk that? Okay, let's give it a shot. It's a good move. Okay, and then we recapture with the knight. We want to simplify into position where we have blocked black's isolated d5 pawn and can surround it and hopefully win it. Okay. So to simplify, here is a matter of trading pieces off. So we would look at something like the knight. Well, that probably wouldn't be a good idea because then that gets reinforced. But yeah, the queen is protecting it right now, and the knight is protecting it. It's looking at it, and the bishop is looking at it. So if we take like here, and then black takes with the bishop, for example, then we can win that pawn straight away, and the queen's not going to trade off a piece. So, right, Cool. And then you just have like all control. You have your bishops out, or unless you trade it. Open lines. All right. Wow. I'm gonna check chat. Whew. Queen's Gambit declined lines. Most of them are funny Gambit lines. Traxler. The Traxler Savage. Blackburn, Shilling are very fun. I do like the Traxler. You have some residual Stafford knowledge from when you played that. I don't know that at all. We'll get to that. We'll get to that. When casting queenside, you basically go for a massive kingside attack with your pawns. In this line, that's been refuted and doesn't really work, and your king is directly under fire after black starts their queenside attack because all your pieces are on the king side. I know what position you're talking about. The one before where we had everything developed and then we had the back rank to choose the castle. Yeah. If bishop takes you, you trap it and proceed to win it. Yeah. Cool. All right. Slav defense. Let's go. Black other main move is 2 C6. Okay, so D4, D5, C4. Okay, so Slav defense, Karakan kind of thing. I think the difference is just the move order, right? It's Karakan C6, D5, but the position is the same. This is the Slav defense. Let's play knight to C3. Oop, not that one. Knight to C3. And now E3. Okay, so against the Slav defense, we play knight to C3 and then E3. This is the Schlechter Slav. Just go 5 knight to F3 here. Okay, so like going for sort of like a King's Indian position. Yep. Let's go move 6. Bishop to E2 here. This makes bishop to G4 harmless. So for black develops their light colored bishop, light square bishop. The knight's not pinned to protect the queen because the bishop is here. Right. No need to play anything fancy. Damn it. Just castle. Okay. Now we can exchange on D5. All right. So I guess that's always, pretty much, almost always, right? Pretty much always exchange. Lani, all right, bro. It's 5 a.m. Got to go to bed. No worries. Yeah, you should definitely go to bed. Good night. Good morning. And go 9, queen to B3. Queen to B3. What? Out here. Oh, okay. So let's just look at that again. Now we exchange on D5. Yep. Black takes back with the C pawn, and then we go move 9, queen to B3. We force black to weaken the light squares with this. Yep. It's a small victory, but still a victory. Yeah. Cool. All right. The Semi-Slav is a hybrid between Queen's Gambit declined and a Slav. Okay. So we'll play D4, D5, C4. Now what? We play C3. Yep, knight to C3. And finally, in this position, it's the same as before. We play pawn to E3. Okay. Knight to F3 is most common, but I recommend a rarer system based off bishop to D3 and knight to G. Knight G E2. Rarer position based off bishop to D3. Yeah, and knight G to E2. We can start with bishop to D3. Okay, right, yep. In this strange system, I'm recommending our knight goes to E2. Okay. Charge forward with the C pawn. Oh, bang. Gain kingside space. And restrict black's bishop further with F4. Nice. I do like this position. Yes. In I like white's position. Black's main pawn break is e5. Yep. Which we've prevented because we're gonna just counter that straight away. We've also killed off both of their bishops. So doing nothing, doing nothing. We can attack on the king or the queen side. So a bit more flexible here. All right, congratulations. You have completed the Queen's Gambit repertoire. I hope you enjoyed the study. I did. Thank you very much to Kale T8, Caelt8 on Lichess for creating this Queen's Gambit study. You now have a complete Queen's Gambit repertoire. I hope you enjoyed the study. Please like and post any feedback in the chat. Thank you, and see you next study. I will give you some feedback. Great study. Thank you. Cool. All right. So with that learning, let's go put it into some games.